Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello everyone and welcome to your English class. In our lesson today, we'll continue with our second unit with the lesson, the pronunciation, the about you part, and the conversation lesson. In your books, page 24 and 25. All you need for the lesson today is your books, page 24 and 25, a sheet of paper and a pen to take down your notes. So let's get started with this. Have you ever heard or read about an unusual incident that were hard to explain? Any incident, event. Maybe you have heard about something, maybe a strange object in the sky, or you can speak about a shooting star or an accident that you couldn't explain. Something that is puzzling, that is weird, and you have no explanation for that. Okay, for our lesson today, by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to pronounce the sound correctly. Also, you will answer specific questions based on a conversation, and you will be able to use some real talk words correctly. After finishing from the pronunciation, we'll answer some questions, then we will get to the conversation. So let's get started. We're having here the suffix, which is the ER. Think about any word that ends with ER. Maybe we can think about farmer. We can think about hammer. Also, water. We're having tower, as well as ladder. We're having tiger and a driver. Notice that it comes by the end of a noun. Driver, ladder, and the others. How do we pronounce them? Let's listen to these. Here, the ER, if you want to pronounce it, you will come with a low sound. It's not loud, it is low. Farmer. The far is louder than the ER. Farmer. Also, we're having quick. We're not going to spend a long time in there. Farmer. Also, it will be flat, so lower. Not going to sound it like farmer, no, farmer. We're having these two examples, which are the farmer and the others. Let's listen to them.
Farmer. Hammer.
So you can notice that it is farmer and hammer. So the ER at the end will be quick, flat, and lower in sound. They will be lower. Okay. Now in your books, page 24, we're having here a list of words. Listen and practice the ER sound, which is lower, unstressed. Let's listen to them.
Crater, driver, recover, water, discover.
You can notice in here that the ER is unstressed, like crater, driver, and we're having recover, water, and discover. So as if it were not there, quickly and flat. Now, I want you to go through the book, the unit, let's say, find more words on the previous pages that end with ER. Practice reading them aloud by not unstressing the ER. From the first lesson, this unit until today's lesson, flip through the unit and try to find any word that ends with an ER. We're having words like under, driver, crater as well, and we're having another. How can you pronounce these words? You will pronounce the ER, let's say unstressed, quickly. Let's listen to them.
Under, driver, crater, another.
So you can notice that the ER is pronounced very quickly and stressed. Under, the at the end is louder than the other. Also driver. So we'll say driver quickly into the ER. Okay. Now, in your books, page 24, we're having these questions which are about you. You will come with events, speak about yourself. It's your turn to answer these questions. Have you ever seen a meteorite, which is the falling star from the sky? Have you ever? I have watched. You can say, yes, I have seen one. I have experienced one. Or you can say that I have never seen it in person or physically, but I have watched a documentary about it, or I saw pictures, photos about it. Also, this one is the meteorite. We're having, have you ever heard or read about unusual incident that were hard to explain? An event, situation that happened, maybe a child who was missing. Or you can speak about, one time I saw a shooting star in the sky. It looked like as if it were explosions, as if it were, let's say, fireflies or fireworks in the sky. You will tell about the incident and what explanation could you find? Also, we're having the same question. Have you ever seen a puzzling sight like those on page 20? Talk about your experience. Maybe you have met someone who looked different, or you saw a building that is different. It is totally different, not a traditional one or not a modern one. Maybe there was some people who live in a place or in a house that looks very different, bizarre, that you had no explanation why. So you can speak about these. Okay, your book's page 25, the conversation part. What could be the first thing that come to your mind when you see a puzzling event? You saw something and you feel that it is puzzling, it is different. What would be the first thing to do? Is it to report it maybe to the police? Or maybe you will tell that I will tell my friends about it. Maybe you will say, I will take a photo for that. If you have you ever seen a meteorite? What was the first thing that came to your mind? Maybe some people say, I will take a photo for it with my phone. Or maybe you will tell that I will report it to the police. This is something that is serious. So, first reaction will be different from one person to the other. Okay, before we start listening in here, let's check who are the speakers. In your books, who's speaking in this conversation? We're saying conversation, so we're having people talking, maybe two or more. We're having here Samir and Greg. So two, Samir and Greg. And what do the pictures show? Can you find out? We're having two, Samir and Greg, they are talking. Two men talking to each other. And we're having a strange object with lights on the floor. Where are they? A school, class? No. They are at the park. From the picture, you can tell that they are at the park. Okay. Now, you will listen to the conversation. Try to follow in your book's page 25. And you will tell what seems to be the problem. Let's listen and you will tell.
Excuse me. What's going on?
When I got to the park, a crowd had already gathered around that weird thing over there.
Gee, I wonder what it is.
Beats me. It must have fallen from the sky. Do you have any idea what it might be?
Whatever it is, it's man-made. It looks like part of a satellite to me.
Or it might be the remains of a weather balloon.
No, it can't be. I've seen weather balloons before, and that's not the type of equipment they have.
You see those lights flashing? And there's a humming sound coming from it. It must be a communication satellite.
Or maybe one of those UFOs. You never know.
So what seems to be the problem? Greg and Samir are talking. they're having an object. This is the weird situation, an object, humming sound. The sound is humming, very low and repetitive. And we're having flashing lights, and they are trying to make guesses about what this object is. Was it a satellite? Was it the remains of a weather balloon or one of the UFOs? So they are trying to make guesses. Now we will listen again to the conversation and you will find the answers for these three questions. What had happened before Greg got to the park? 2. What does Samer think the object could be? His guesses. And what does Greg think it might be? Let's listen.
Excuse me. What's going on?
When I got to the park, a crowd had already gathered around that weird thing over there.
Gee, I wonder what it is.
Beats me. It must have fallen from the sky. Do you have any idea what it might be?
Whatever it is, it's man-made. It looks like part of a satellite to me.
Or it might be the remains of a weather balloon.
No, it can't be. I've seen weather balloons before, and that's not the type of equipment they have.
You see those lights flashing? And there's a humming sound coming from it. It must be a communication satellite.
Or maybe one of those UFOs. You never know.
So, what had happened before Greg got to the park? So, when Greg came into the park, something had happened before he came in. What had happened? A crowd had gathered around a weird object. So the crowd had gathered, then we're having Greg came into the park. Number 2, what does Samer think the object could be? What are his speculations? He gave us a group of guesses. He said, Samer thought the object could be a satellite. Maybe this object is could be a satellite. How about Greg? What does Greg think it might be? At first, Greg thought it might be a weather balloon, but then he changed his mind and thought it must be a communications satellite. So at the beginning he said it could be a weather balloon, then no, maybe a communications satellite. So he changed his mind. Okay, so speaking about the speculations, whenever we're having something that is bizarre, different, that we had no explanations for that, we will come with our speculations or guesses. What are the guesses that they made about the weird object? At the beginning they said it might be the remains of a weather balloon. So at the beginning maybe a weather balloon. Then they said I have once seen a weather balloon and it looked differently than that. Also, one of them said it must be a communications satellite. Then they changed their mind. They said no, it couldn't be a communications satellite, maybe something different. Then one of them told us that maybe one of those UFOs. What do we mean with a UFO? Any object that you undefined flying object. The U for undefined, F for flying, and O for object. So any strange object in the sky, it could be a bird, an airplane, or we're having a communication satellite. So it will be a UFO, undefined flying object. So these are the guesses. What did they say? It might be, it must be, it may be one of the UFOs. So they are speculating, they are not sure about what it is. Have we got an answer by the end? No, they are only speculations. Have you ever seen a strange object? What did you do? How about you? Greg and Samer had seen this weird object. How about you? Have you seen a strange object? Have you ever seen a solar eclipse? We're having the moon and the sun will be in parallel, so we can't see, let's say, the sunlight. or it could be because the moon, we can't see the moon because of the sun. So these are some strange phenomena that you can tell about them. You can narrate your story towards them. Now, at the very end of the conversation, one of them, Samer, said, or maybe one of those UFOs. You never know. What could Greg reply to him? He might say he will add to it. How about you? What could you add? Maybe, yeah, we had better call the police. This is one suggestion. Or he could say, it might be a time bomb. Let's get out of there. Or he could say, I'm going to stick around to see what happens. What other things would you reply to a friend who would tell you, maybe you never know, it could be one of those things. Let's ask someone. Let's report it to the police. Or you will come up with more speculations. It could be a timed bomb, or you will say, let's stick around to see what happened. So every reply will be okay. Okay, how about the real talk phrases? In the real talk phrase part, in here, we are using phrases to sound a better language user. It's not new vocab. They use it for certain phrases and certain words in different contexts. At the beginning, when Greg said, excuse me, what's going on? When do we use excuse me? It's an easy one, I know. You use it to start a conversation. You don't know someone who's in front of you, so we're not going to say, hey, no. Excuse me, it is much more polite. I want to start a conversation with you. Also, he said, gee, I wonder what it is. When do you say gee? From the sound, the intonation. It's not gee, it's gee, I wonder what it is. When you say gee, it is an exclamation. You will say, what's wrong? What is that? Exclamation, asking questions. Also, he replied, he said, beats me. It must have fallen from the sky. Do you have any ideas what it might be? What do you mean when we say beats me? Is it a game? He's saying he's using beats me when he say, I have no idea. I have nothing to say. Maybe this or that. However, I'm not very sure. Beats me. I have no idea. Then he replied by the end, or maybe one of those UFOs. You will never know. When do you say you never know? If you want to tell that anything is possible. It might be a satellite, a weather balloon, a time bomb, something that had fallen from the sky. Everything is possible. You will never know. Everything is possible. Now in your book's page 25, we've got these 3 questions. What had happened before Greg got to the park? From Greg's speech, you can find out that what had happened, we're having a crowd had gathered around a weird object. We're having an object, some people gathered, get together, then we're having Greg into the park. Then we're having the guesses in here. What does Samir think the object could be? Find out from Samir's speech. He said he thought the object could be a satellite. It could be a communication satellite. How about Greg? What does Greg think that it might be? At first, he thought it might be a weather balloon, but then he changed his mind and thought it must be a communication satellite. He said, I agree with you. It could be a communication satellite. Okay, now let's try to use the real talk phrases. Here we're having what happened. He hurt himself in the knee. Would you say gee or excuse me? Something surprising. You will use gee. Gee, what happened? Here we're having 2. One of them wants to start a conversation. She will say, can I help you? Yes, please, if you could. You will start the conversation with, excuse me, can I help you? You will not say hey or gee for a surprise. What happened? Let's check. beats me or excuse me. You will say, beats me, I have no idea. Let's go and check. Then, do you think it's dangerous? You will say, beats me, you never know, but I think it is. You will say, you will never know, everything is possible. So, let's go and check. Here, in your book's page 94, exercise G. Strange things happened to people all the time. How about you? Have you ever experienced or have you ever seen a meteorite? This one is a meteorite. Have you ever seen it? Maybe we all have seen them in documentaries. Maybe some of you have experienced it. You will see it just as if it were a shooting star in the sky. Have you ever seen a tornado? A hurricane or a tornado? I guess yes. Maybe you have seen pictures, you have seen them, you have experienced them. When the weather is changing between seasons, we're having tornadoes, a strong windstorm. How about floods? The idea of flood is related to water. When the level of water is high, we're having the tsunami is the strongest, one of the strongest floods. Have you ever experienced it? Ask yourself about it. How about snow in summer? Have you ever seen snow in summer? I have seen rain. How about snow in summer seasons? We don't have snow actually. How about strange object in the sky? Any UFO. It could be a satellite or anything. Have you ever seen it? You can say, yes, I have seen it one time. Or, I have never seen a UFO. How about northern lights in the sky? This one in certain areas which are very closer to the pole, to the north and south pole, they will experience the green lights, then they call it the aurora or the northern lights, just like green lights in the sky. You can read about it, it's very interesting. Also, we're having shooting stars. When the sky is very clear and it is the middle of the night, you could see shooting stars, and it's interesting to go and gaze them. Also, we're having solar eclipse. Have you ever experienced that? We have all experienced once or partial or full. We're having the sunlight will be hidden by the moon. It's an interesting phenomenon. Then we're having a sandstorm. Have you ever tried to be in a place with a sandstorm? I guess yes. A sandstorm, it could be just as if it were a storm, but we will have a replacement with sand, and many people will get sick afterwards. Okay. For your homework, I want you to think about this. Strange things happen to people all the time. Choose one of the strange things mentioned in the previous exercise and tell what happened to you, your experience toward it. You can write in 2 sentences. When I was in this place or that place, then I experienced a sandstorm. I saw a shooting star. Then I read about it and I found out that it is this or that star. Okay? I guess that is it for the lesson today. And thank you so much for your time.